Uh-oh. Yes.
Your
You
go.
ready? Up
Your
there?
go.
Okay. Welcome to the October 9th, 2024 Newtown Township Board of Supervisors meeting. We traditionally start our meeting with a moment of silence, so please join us as we do so. And I know I'm going to be thinking about everybody in the path of the hurricane and all those who have suffered from that, and of course the tragic date of October 7th that we just passed. So please join me in a moment of silence. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Manager, are there any changes to the agenda this evening?
There are no changes.
Are there any special actions?
No.
Brings us to our budget presentation. So, Mr. Manager, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Board members, I appreciate your time tonight. I'll make this brief in the interest of the amount of agenda items we have in front of us tonight. Starting off, I would like to thank all the department heads and staff that have helped put the proposed budget into its final version. Budgeting process is a tedious process, and the level of detail that has been provided by staff is genuinely appreciated. The 2025 manager's budget has been developed in consultation with the Board of Supervisors. There are no tax increases proposed for the year 2025. Total revenues are projected to be $13.7 million in the general fund. The year-end fund balance is projected to be $5.2 million. Expenditures are budgeted for $16.3 million, and this figure includes a $1.2 million transfer to the Fire Protection Fund to support the operational expenditures of the Emergency Services Department without the need for a tax increase. Salaries are budgeted in accordance with the various collective bargaining agreements, and salaries for key exempt personnel are adjusted to remain competitive in today's market. The township has 79 full-time employees. Four new firefighters were brought on in 2024 with the use of the SAFER grant. After the grant expires, the township will need to support funding for these additional firefighters with tax revenue. The year-end fund balance at the end of 2025 is anticipated to be approximately $2.5 million, which represents 15.8% of expenditures. As far as other funds go, I'll touch on a few. The Fire Protection Fund, all revenues and expenditures previously budgeted in the general fund associated with the Emergency Services Department are moved to the Fire Protection Fund. In 2024, the Pennsylvania General Assembly revised the second-class township code to allow a maximum of 10 mills of real estate tax be allocated to that fund. A transfer of $1.2 million, as I had previously mentioned, is proposed from the general fund, avoiding the need for a tax increase in 2025. Future tax increases will be necessary to support that operation. As far as the capital projects fund, 2025 capital project accounts for $686,000 in capital purchases, such as police vehicles, technology upgrades, public works equipment, and infrastructure improvements. The township has a total of $845,000 budgeted in 2025 to go towards road paving. This is an increase of approximately over $100,000 more than 2024. Mr. Jim, if I could have the slide that we typically show each year. This slide depicts the comparison of real estate tax millage levied by the township. You see Newtown Township at the top at 13.115 mills, and then you can see other townships that are comparable to Newtown that collect EIT. I will note that a lot of these other towns that are shown on this slide do not have a paid fire department. There are several requests not included in the 2025 budget. Additional personnel such as police officers, firefighters, public works employees, directors in IT, human resources, and codes and zoning have been omitted, along with a slew of additional capital purchases. As far as timing and adoption of the budget, the preliminary budget needs to be advertised for a minimum of 20 days before it can be adopted by the Board of Supervisors. It's recommended that the preliminary budget be advertised on November 13th, with the final adoption of the 2025 budget on December 10th. There's no second meeting scheduled in December of this year because of the Christmas holiday, so a second meeting would need to be advertised if we were to have one. Budget discussions will be included on future agendas for any clarification or any questions that the board may have. That concludes our report.
Thank you. I'm going to save my comments for our next meeting because I think we all just got this budget and we want to absorb it a little bit. So that's my feeling about questions. But if anybody on the board has any, please feel free.
I have one question. I think you mentioned there's no anticipated tax increase for 2025.
That's correct.
But you're anticipating an increase in 2026
Yes.
because of a ongoing deficit. Can you, deficit spending, can you explain the deficit spending situation?
Yes, so you have a figure that is a fund balance.
I'm sorry to say that, I didn't hear.
You have a figure of the fund balance that's sitting in the general fund right now. Your total revenues projected next year are $13.7 million, and your total expenditures are 16.3. So you're not bringing in enough money to offset the anticipated expenditures for next year. That's what a deficit spending is.
Okay, so to either avoid taxes, we'd have to spend less.
Either spend less or increase taxes, yes.
But you're saying no increase in 2025?
In 2025, that's correct.
Okay. And I would note you had thanks for sending me the survey of the Bucks County Consortium survey of salaries, and I noted on there that most of the salaries that you have put into this budget are at or near the average for townships of greater than 10,000.
That's correct. And you see them here. You have a very talented group of employees here who contribute a lot to the operation and go above and beyond whenever they're asked by myself or by this board. So I think that they should be compensated accordingly.
Okay. Let me see if I had any other questions. You mentioned I think the 1 mil of real estate tax that we imposed last year, the one for debt services.
Yes.
And I think at that time we approved it. I'm reading from your manager's report of 10/11/2023. It says that money that we got from that 1 mil tax is specifically for the LED streetlight conversion project, building light upgrades, and the proposed pedestrian crossing signal located at Newtown Yardley Road and Tara Boulevard.
That's from 2023.
For 2024. That's the basis upon which we approved.
No.
We did not approve the 1 mil on the basis of that statement that you made?
No, it was for road paving. It was for the LED lighting and the building lighting.
No, I'm quoting from your township manager's 2024 budget message.
Yes, that's what I had in 2023. That was before we got awarded the grant money.
I understand that, but you know, when we raise taxes and we give a reason for it, you know, I expect that we stick to the reason why we raised that tax.
That's
So-
understood. The debt was withdrawn for the road paving, building lighting, and for the LED lighting.
All right, that's basically all I have. Thank you.
I have been remiss. Our chair, Dennis Fisher, is here with us, and I forgot to say that. So he is on the phone, and so right now I'm going to say, Dennis, just say something if you would like to. Do you have any questions or comments at this time?
Yes, I have two comments or questions. One is the November 13th date for advertising the preliminary budget. Is that also known as hanging the budget?
Yes. That's what,
But I just wanted to make sure my terminology I understood the terminology. So we're projecting, that's a projection, so very good. And in the B section of the budget, where we list all of our revenues and expenditures, it's kind of confusing to me where the revenues stop, where the revenues end, what page they end and the expenditures start. I think I found it on B4. It's kind of like a mid-page with no separation.
yeah, that's correct. It's page B4.
Okay. I just wanted to be sure I had that right.
Right.
I'll put a double line in there so I know. And on the other thing, and I'm guessing this is because we don't have a signed agreement with the borough's contribution for fire services is listed at 182 or 183, and we do have a tentative agreement not signed yet, so I guess that's why we haven't put the actual number. It's 856, I think.
That's correct. We used last year's number because there's no current agreement for next year.
Got it. It's coming.
Very soon.
That's all I have for now.
Thank you.
And to thank you.
I just have one more comment, you know, with relative to what Mr. Fisher was talking about, realizing which pages are revenue and which are expenses.
Yeah.
There's no header on these pages, so.
Right. No, it's so that the expenditures start at line item on page B4 at 01400 110. Everything preceding that is revenue.
Well, can I suggest that you probably make it a little bit easier, and especially when we
We'll take a
advertise
look
it?
to see if there's a way to delineate the two.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else?
Yes, Madam Chair. Since there is no tax increase for 2025, I'm just going to throw a hypothetical out there. Could we tonight hang this budget and still continue to make adjustments to it as time
Yeah.
goes on?
Yes, it could be authorized for advertisement. However, once you do advertise it, you can't increase spending in any department more than 10% or I'm sorry, 25% and 10% in the budget overall. So there is some parameters for that. I don't really foresee that happening, but
Okay.
but it absolutely could be authorized for advertisement if that's what the board decides.
And the other thing is, Mr. Mack brought up a good point that for us to spend less. Now, one way of spending less would be to actually lay off certain personnel.
Personnel is a
And
majority of the budget.
what is the percentage of personnel in this budget?
I would guess conservatively between 75 and 80%.
Okay, so we're top-heavy on personnel,
Yeah.
so it's not much we could cut there without affecting services and so on.
That's correct. I mean, the other thing you could look into reducing further is the capital plan above what we've already cut out of it to try to maintain consistency with that replacements.
Okay. That's all I have right now.
And I'd just like to say I have some concerns and suggestions that I'm going to hold until our next meeting, which would prevent me from saying hang the budget, but I understand what your point is. Anybody else? Any questions?
Well,
Okay.
getting back to what Mr. Clapper was talking about, in terms of saving some money, I would note that we are paying Barry Islett and Associates for our zoning officer services. And in last year, well, in 2023, they billed us over $371,000. And that was, in our budget was for them $159,000. In 2024, to date, it's $293,000, over $293,000, also over budget. And so perhaps the township could save money by hiring a zoning officer, which I know from the salary survey, the average is about $35 an hour for a full-time person. And I also know that some other townships use outside services for perhaps these same people. But it seems to me that $300,000 a year is sort of an exorbitant fee to be paying
So
a zoning officer function.
It's not only the zoning officer. So they're also the building inspectors, and the way they charge is they take a percentage of the fees that are required to file a building permit. So that figure is not just the zoning officer, it's also the building inspection fees, the permit fees, and all that everything else that comes along with it.
Well, I don't know the details of all the building inspecting and all that, but a percentage of the fees that we charge, I mean, that's what leads to this exorbitant amount of money.
Yes.
I'm just saying, if you want to save money, I would take a look at that and maybe try to hire full-time people, or I don't know how many people you need for building inspection. I thought the fire department did a lot of that. But whatever, I think we could save money there.
Anything else? Good.
Thank you. This brings us to our first round of public comment for items not on the agenda this evening. Please state your name and address, and I'd like to ask that everybody be civil to one another in this round of public comment and the next. So if anybody has any, please feel free.
Hi, my name's Norm Seeger. I live in the Villas of Newtown. My name's Norm Seeger. I live in the Villas of Newtown. My property butts up on Upper Silver Lake Road, and that's what I've come to talk about. Upper Silver Lake is a long stretch with a lot of speeders, although the speed limit is 35 miles an hour. We have 3 crosswalks, none of which are marked in any way. No striping, no stop signs, no pedestrian signs. I talked to our town engineer, I believe his name is Micah, and he said he couldn't put in any striping on crosswalks because the sidewalks don't align with each other. So I noticed all the work that went into Lower Darlington Road. The stop signs, the crosswalks, the signs for the pedestrians, and I'm just asking, what can we do to slow down the traffic on Upper Silver Lake and put in some crosswalks that would people who cross there? I do want to mention that the one person who's helped me out quite a bit is Chief Hearn. When he has the assets, he's put a police car or the illuminated sign that says how fast you're going, that type of thing. I'm not a traffic expert, but I believe the cheapest way would be to put in one of the stop signs at one of the crosswalks. Other than that, the solar panels, when Chief Hearn has put the solar panels there, they slow down the traffic because they're right in your face telling you how fast you're going. As a former resident of Vermont, I was up there last month picking up my maple syrup and my Green Mountain salsa, and I noticed that every town, every small town in Vermont now has these solar signs that not only shows what your speed is, but they'll say slow down or you're speeding. So those are just some of the recommendations. One question I had, how did we finance Lower Darlington? How was that done?
If I might answer that, that was grant money that
Okay.
we received.
So in other words, to do something on Upper Silver Lake, we would need grant money?
I can't say
Oh.
at this point,
Okay,
but we'll take your comment into consideration.
thank you.
I think, I'm not sure if it's in the budget, but didn't the chief say that he would like some more of these solar signs because it's not in the budget? Well, I know that the ones that we had are no longer operational, so, you know, it makes sense to,
And I think the cheapest way then would be to stop signs on at least one of the intersections in the middle of Upper Silver Lake that would at least slow those cars down to that point. When I say they're coming through speeding, it's such a long road, it's downhill on a lot of ways, and cars just come barreling down there. So I'm concerned about the pedestrians who cross all the time with their dogs or walking their kids, and I think it's a dangerous situation. Thank you.
Mr. Manager, are there any minor approvals this evening?
No minor approvals, I'm sorry.
Okay, we're now going to hear reports of boards, committees, and commissions. I see the Planning Commission is not here, so we'll start with our chair, Mr. Fisher. You're on.
All right, I have three things, really quick, one of them. The first one is to thank you, Ellen, for taking over the meeting this evening, for running it. The second one is we did meet kind of individually with the manager in developing the budget to give him ideas and thoughts. And the third one is I received an email with an attached letter from Delancey Court residents. I just wanted to make that clear that it was received, and I have shared it via email with the other board members and the administration. I haven't had a chance to read it because I just got it this afternoon.
Okay. Thank you very much. That brings us to me. I'd like to say that along with the jointure meeting that I've recently attended, I've been working hard to make sure that our pollinator garden event goes nicely this weekend. As you might know, this is a collaboration between the township, the EAC, and community volunteers. So if you feel like planting this weekend, please come to Roberts Ridge Park Saturday morning at 10 o'clock, where we will commence with that project. That's all I have this evening. Mr. Mack?
yes, I'm looking to getting down and dirty at the pollinator garden on Saturday. I attended the October 3rd Joint Zoning Council meeting where, you know, I learned about the LIOLI district amendment, which we put forward, which will finally be voted on by the other two townships by October 23rd. And I learned that once they approve this, it's official. Nothing else has to be done. Is that correct?
This board will also have to hold a public hearing and enact the amended ordinance on October 23rd, I believe.
Okay. So once that's done, it's a done deal. This is where you, we amended it for the overlay district to have housing that needs to come before the Board of Supervisors as a conditional use rather than, what's the other term?
By right.
By right.
That's correct.
Okay. So that was good. And I also, Wrightstown put forward this idea of having illustrations or photos in the joint municipal zoning ordinance, and we authorized the Bucks County Planning Commission to come back with a proposal about doing that. The other thing I wanted to mention is October is Family History Month, and in celebration of this, Kevin Antoine, the chair of our Newtown Human Relations Commission, is inviting everyone to his book talk about his best-selling book, New Black Power. The book chronicles his parents' involvement in the civil rights movement in Mississippi and his history-making campaign for the United States Congress and Mississippi's majority-white 4th Congressional District. It will be held at the College Library, Bucks County Community College Library, tomorrow, the 10th, starting at 12:30 p.m. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Calabro?
I have nothing to report.
Mr. Davis?
I have nothing also.
Thank you. That brings us to our public hearings, the first one being for Love and Honey Fried Chicken at 2820 South Eagle Road. This is a conditional use hearing, so I'll hand it over to Mr. Sanders.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is the conditional use hearing for the amended applicant, which is Brixmore. Brixmore seeks to operate a use E5 and use E6 eating place and eating place drive-in restaurant in the village at Newtown. Mr. Murphy is here representing the applicant. Before he commences, I would like to mark as Exhibit B for Board 1 the application. 2 will be the CKS Engineers Review Letter dated July 25th, 2024. Exhibit B3 will be a photograph depicting the posting of the property with notice of this evening's hearing. Exhibit B4 will be the proof of publication of the original hearing in this matter that has been continued on the record to this evening. And Exhibit B5 is an email from Ed Murphy to myself and the township manager noting the applicant for this application. Those are the board exhibits for this hearing. Mr. Murphy.
Good evening. Thank you. I'm here tonight, as Dave said, on behalf of Love and Honey Fried Chicken to seek conditional use approval to occupy the space that formerly has been occupied by Halal Guys over at the village of Newtown. To my right is Laura Lyons. She is the co-founder and CEO of Love and Honey Fried Chicken. To Dave's comment about the needed amendment to the application, the original proposed franchisee was the applicant at the time, and I was handling that aspect. Because those applicants had some reservations about proceeding forward, they elected not to. So Brixmore has stepped in to be the applicant. However, shortly we will identify a new proposed franchisee to occupy that space. So it's still going to be a Love and Honey Fried Chicken space. It just would be with a different franchisee, and Ms. Lyons can speak to that. And I'd like her to tell you all a little bit about Love and Honey Fried Chicken, and then we can talk about the specifics of the conditional use. So, Laura, if you would.
Sure. Let's have her sworn in, please.
Can you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thanks. And just give me your name.
Laura Lyons. Lauralyons. Thank you, Ed.
Yep.
Like he said, I am the co-founder with my husband right there of Love and Honey Fried Chicken. We have our corporate store in Northern Liberties, Philadelphia. We opened about 7.5 years ago. Last year, we made the decision to begin franchising the brand. Currently, we have about 13 territories awarded. We're very excited to potentially be opening in the village of Newtown. We have a very Americana menu. It's a chef-driven and I would say an elevated fast casual restaurant. We're not fast food. My husband and I are both classically trained chefs. We've worked in the industry pretty much our entire lives and careers. And we always wanted to open a restaurant together, and here we are about 7.5 years later. So we're really excited. I can answer any questions you may have. I have some business cards here. If you want to check out our website, our menu, our Instagram, we have 53,000 followers, I think, right now on Instagram. So we're chugging along.
Okay. Would it be appropriate for questions from the board, Mr. Murphy, or would you like to continue to ask
Either
questions
way,
of your witness?
I think it's a fairly straightforward application. We did, as Dave reported, we made the formal application. We've had reviews from CKS commenting upon the conditional use. We met with your planning commission on August 6th. We received a favorable unanimous recommendation of support for the application. We don't need to do any calculation for square footage of a restaurant, because this restaurant, together with the one following this one, is replacing an existing restaurant space, so we don't have any of those questions about that. And I think, as Dave typically does in these matters, that we would incorporate the review comments of July 25 from the township planner, highlighting those issues which are typical with conditional use: hours of operation, number of employees, all the regular, no noxious odors, smells, all that stuff. So I don't think, Dave, if you disagree, I don't think there's anything out of the ordinary with this type of conditional use as opposed to any other smaller restaurant space. No additional space, same space, just interior, typical interior tenant fit out, and that's it. We've already applied the Phil Calabro rule about expanding the hours of operation.
Right.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. No, it's all, I give you full credit for that every time. So,
Madam Chair, to be appropriate for board questions at this time.
Do we have any questions from the board?
Yes, I know it follows all the rules and everything, but you described this as a restaurant. Is it a fast food place? I know Lyle Brothers used to look like a pretty small place. You don't have people sitting there ordering from a menu, sitting down, do you?
We do a tremendous amount of online business. So our current store is only 100 square feet, our original store in Northern Liberties. We will do about $1.8 million in business this year. During COVID, we had some counter seating when we opened. And then during COVID, we stayed open the entire time, but we transitioned to takeout. All of our future locations will have some sit down, but you'll be able to come in. The Halal Guys location now is a perfect size for our brand. There will be some seats, but we do a tremendous amount of pickup and delivery takeout business.
Okay, so it clarifies, just people come up to the counter, they order stuff, they can sit
Correct.
down or take it home.
Yes.
And also, as usual with this, it's not really a drive-through. You're not talking about people crashing through your door and stuff like that.
Correct.
Because there is no real drive-through.
There's no drive-through, right?
It's just part of the definition.
That's right. We rely on our online ordering system, and so people will come in and they will order and they will sit. They will order and take it to go, or they will order online, pick it up, or they'll order online and have it delivered. You got it. We're an elevated fast casual. That's what we sort of define ourselves
So
as.
you're not really fast food, you're good food made quickly.
Somewhat quickly,
I
yes.
took that from
Try to be as quickly as we can.
Seinfeld, actually.
Yes. We like to differentiate from being fast food.
but she didn't bring any samples still.
I did say to Ed that once we're open and things are chugging along, I would be happy to bring some food over here as well.
That is not, for the board's knowledge, a quid pro quo at all.
Okay. Mr. Fisher, do you have any questions?
No, I think they typically would
Do
review
not.
it.
Thank you.
She asked Dennis if he had any questions.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay, seeing no additional questions, I guess we should frame a motion. And before we vote on the motion, we will certainly ask for public comment, but let's get a motion before the board. If the board's of a mind, it would be a motion to grant the application of Brixmore for a conditional use to allow an E5 eating place and E6 eating place drive-in restaurant, in this case, a takeout restaurant, in the village at Newtown Shopping Center at 2820 South Eagle Road, Newtown Township, PA, lot number 2. The approval is conditioned on the applicant meeting the following conditions. 1, the applicant shall comply with all the comments set forth in the CKS review letter of July 25th, 2024. 2, the hours of operation shall be from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. 7 days a week. 3, there will be 3 shifts of workers with a maximum number of employees per shift of 8. Total number of employees will be 23. 4, materials. There will be no hazardous, flammable, or explosive material stored or used in the leased space. Should this change, the landlord and the township must immediately be notified of the nature of the materials on site and how they are being kept safely. 5, the intended use will not cause or disseminate noxious, toxic, nor corrosive fumes, smoke, odor, or dust. There will be no loud noise, vibration, or objectionable heat, glare, or radiation beyond the property line, nor will it create any other objectionable condition that may endanger the public health and safety. In the event this condition changes, the applicant must immediately notify the landlord and township of the nature of the potential environmental risks and how it intends to render them safe for the public and all employees. 6, the applicant will provide will-serve letters from the appropriate water and sewer agency and authority prior to obtaining a certificate of occupancy. Any requirements for grease traps must be met to secure the certificate of occupancy. 7, deliveries to the premises shall not interfere with the deliveries to surrounding businesses and should be planned for before or after regular business hours. 8, the applicant shall pay all outstanding fees, costs, or reimbursements to the township prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy. 9, access, exit, and movement of customers within the leased space must be fully compliant with the ADA and all other applicable state and federal laws. And finally, 10, trash pickup will be coordinated with the other Newtown Shopping Center tenants so as not to interfere with the normal flow of traffic or the operations of those businesses. Mr. Murphy, are those conditions acceptable to the applicant?
They are.
Okay. Is there a motion to that effect, Madam Chair?
Do I have a motion? Second.
I'll second.
Okay, any questions from the public? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Oh, Dennis?
I was an aye.
Okay, didn't hear you. Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. That will close this hearing.
Okay, that brings us to the next conditional use hearing for Flourish Cafe at 2819 South Eagle Road. Mr. Sanders?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is the conditional use application of Sweet Rhythm Bakery, Inc., doing business as Flourish Cafe. Mr. Murphy is also here representing the applicant in this matter. I will mark as board exhibits the following. Board Exhibit B1 is a copy of the application. Board Exhibit B2 is the CKS engineer's letter dated July 26, 2024. Exhibit B3 is a photograph depicting the posting of notice of this evening's hearing. And Exhibit Exhibit B4 is the proof of publication of notice of this evening's hearing. And Exhibit B5 is a photograph of the most recent posting, B3 being the posting for a prior hearing that was not held due to an advertising snafu by the newspaper, B5 being a notice of posting of this evening's hearing. Those are the board exhibits for this hearing. Mr.
This is a rerun of what we just talked about 5 minutes ago. This is an applicant, Medina, here this evening with me. She is one of the owners of Flourish Cafe. She has an existing location at the Village Shires Shopping Center, which I understand from a lot of people have already, and Jerry's nodding his head because he loves going there. But much like the prior applicant, submitted a conditional use, had the typical reviews from CKS, met with your planning commission, received a favorable recommendation, and much like the prior applicant, this is a restaurant taking over an existing restaurant space, Koi, in the village of Newtown. No need for doing any other calculations about that. It is, again, simply interior tenant fit-out, actively underway now, but as simple and as straightforward as you can make it. And based on that, I would, again, offer Medina to you to answer any questions you may have about her concept. It's not proposed, it's an existing one, and she, at the Planning Commission, was asked to provide a summary of her menu and her idea, and after that, have Dave suggest a motion based on the typical reviews and comments and conditions which we would accept. So,
Okay.
Medina?
Why don't we get her sworn in and get the
Yep.
full spelling of her first and last names, please?
Thank you. Right.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I swear.
Spell your name.
Medina Chilashvili, Madina Shvili. I'm sorry, Chilashvili. That's my
Okay, start it again, please. I'm trying to write here, and I wrote Shvili, but I didn't write the first part,
Madina
right?
Chilashvili.
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 Strong. Board questions for Ms. Chilashvili?
Why don't you let Medina?
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I apologize. I didn't know there was testimony.
So the Flourish is Eastern European cafe. We've been open for 3 years, our first location, and we did very well. All our menu is made from scratch, and we have been a 5-star around the area. And the only problem right now is that we can't fit people in, and we have to tell them, sorry, we can't seat you, and we want to expand at Newtown location so we can sit all those people that we're sending back. And we're very excited to bring to a Newtown European cuisine.
Okay, questions from the board for Ms. Chilashvili?
Can I ask what kind of food that is? Can you give me an
Eastern
example?
European. So we have French, Ukrainian, Russian, mostly French and Italy.
Okay. What's your most popular?
It's pumpkin soup and syrniki, farmer cheese delights, and one more popular is our potato pancakes. Must try.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board?
Okay, no questions. Mr. Murphy, would you like to summarize, or should I frame a motion?
I think you should frame a motion.
Okay. If the board is of a mind, it would be a motion to grant the application of Sweet Rhythm Bakery, Inc. for a conditional use to allow a proposed eating place use E5 and eating place drive-in restaurant use E6 in the Village at Newtown Shopping Center, lot number 4. This is conditioned on the applicant's compliance with the following conditions. First, the applicant must comply with all comments set forth in the CKS Engineers Review Letter of July 26, 2024. 2, the hours of operation will be Monday through Saturday, 8 a.m. to midnight, and Sunday, 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. Third, there will be 8 employees for the first and second shifts with an average of 16 employees overall and a maximum of 18 if necessary. 4, materials used on the premises. 5, no noxious, toxic, or corrosive fumes, smoke, odor, or dust will be no loud vibration or air or radiation beyond the property line, nor any other objectionable condition that may endanger safety, general, or such dangerous conditions come to exist on the property. The applicant must immediately notify the landlord and the township of these conditions and explain how it intends to rectify and mediate these unwanted conditions. 6, all deliveries will 7, trash pickup will be coordinated normal flow of traffic nor operation of those businesses. 8, the applicant shall provide will serve letters from the appropriate water and sewer agency / authority before a certificate of occupancy will be issued by the township. 9, these uses must be fully ADA compliant with state and federal law. 10, a copy of the commercial lease between the applicant and the landlord will be provided to the township. And finally, all fees and costs must be paid in full to the township before the issue of to the applicant, Mr. Murphy.
They are.
Okay. Is there a motion, Madam Chair?
Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Do we have a second? Any other questions from the board? Any questions from the public? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you, and that will close this hearing.
Thank you. Seeing no land development this evening, we'll move on to reports of officials. Mr. Kandari, it's all yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First item on our agenda is the financial security release number 2 for the Provco Pine Good Wawa, Remington and Vernick, Newtown Township. Request by Provco Pine Good Newtown LLC, seeking a release of financial security held for the completion of required site improvements at the Wawa Food Market and Fueling Station. Based upon completed, that Newtown Township released the amount of $103,571.60 to the developer. Required site improvements at the development. And I'll note that after this release, the total amount of financial security remaining is $1,673,533.27.
Okay, do we have a motion for the board to approve this security relief? Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions from the board?
In your review, and that and what they're the Newtown Sewer Authority requiring them to somehow mitigate their wastewater management by drilling under an underground stream. Do you know anything about?
Yeah, that was land development. They had to bore under the stream behind the proposed Wawa to make their utility.
Part of what the work that you mentioned, or is that still needs to be done?
The separate utilities would be covered under a guarantee from those. So, typically outlined in our financial security breakdown, would be in the separate utilities.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Any questions from the public? Seeing none, all in favor of releasing the security, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes 5-0. 5-0, sorry.
Thank you. The second item is the recommendation to award the Newtown Pedestrian Upgrades Project. On September 27th, 2024, Remington and Vernick engineers received and opened the bids for said project. A total of 2 bids were received, ranging from $391,915 to $437,445 for the base bid work. We reviewed the bids and found no discrepancies in the bids submitted by the apparent low bidder, T. Schaefer Contractors, Inc. This contractor submitted their bid for the base bid work in the amount of $391,915 and a cost of $117,000 for the alternate bid for decorative poles. In communication with the township, we are here to recommend award of the base bid in the total amount of $391,915. This is contingent upon funds being available and upon receiving authorization to award from all funding agencies. Happy to answer questions about the bid.
Please.
No, might have to expand on this,
Sure.
but you said the cost could be brought down to $384,000, and we have $377,000 odd dollars. That would include the decorative poles, is that correct?
The base bid of $391,915 includes an allowance of $50,000. So that's for work, unforeseen work. We don't anticipate having to touch that allowance, but it's always a good item to have and do any change orders. So with the assumption that that item does not have to be touched, that would eventually become a credit to the township, which would bring essentially that base bid cost down to $341,915. And I think to answer your question, if the alternate bid was to be awarded, that cost would be the difference between the alternate bid and the cost in the base bid for the standard poles. So the delta of that would be approximately $42,200. So again, the base bid minus that allowance plus that additional cost of $42,200 brings that total to approximately $384,000. And we do have grant funds in the amount of, like you said, about $377,000.
In a matter of dollars, we can get everything that we want. Additional $7,000, basically.
That's with the assumption that there's no additional added costs through any change orders.
Right. And the worst case scenario would be whatever you had to add to the project, which could still be a lot less than $50,000. It's unknown at this point if there's any additional work that needs to be done. So I would like to make a motion that we accept the total bid of the base bid plus the alternate bids for the decorative poles at both locations. Because for me, it keeps in up with what the borough, for example, is doing. They just recently put in some decorative poles at, what's the location on Washington Avenue and
Washington and
Lincoln Avenue? Requesting the decorative poles. This is something also that's on North Sycamore Street that has, I believe, they have decorative poles in North Sycamore Street, so it's keeping up with what the look and feel of Newtown should be, and especially in the Tower Boulevard situation, which is connected to the Newtown Trail. And people want to use that trail, go through the crosswalk, and I think it would be a good idea. So I would like to make that motion, if I could. And I hope somebody would second that. The motion to accept the base bid plus the alternate bid for the decorative poles. Totals would be $1,000. As I mentioned previously, the 1 mil tax that we had in 2024, we mentioned that part of that, it was specifically told to us that some of that money could be used for the, so that 1 mil works out to be about $330,000 or so. Taking $7,000 out of that doesn't seem to be or a big hit on that.
If I have a comment, and I do, I thought that was for debt services, that extra could be wrong. Be $7,184, but if there's any change orders, it could be anywhere up to $42,000. Is that correct, Mr. Canary?
Could you repeat that? I wasn't quite following you.
I'm saying, in the best of all worlds, if there were no change orders, the amount would be $7,184 for these decorative poles.
Right.
If there are change orders, which we don't know that yet, it could be as much as $42,200. Is that correct?
So that $42,200 is just the difference between the base bid poles and the decorative poles. So I think to answer your question, that number doesn't really come into play when you're talking about any sort of additional change orders. So if there were change orders, it wouldn't necessarily be capped at that $42,200. So yes, the best case scenario would be that $7,000 and change for the decorative poles. And then whatever change orders there might possibly be, that would be on top of that $7,000 would be the additional funds.
So we would have to commit to that no matter what it is if we say yes tonight, right?
Yeah, those funds would have to come out of the township general funds.
Okay. So we have a motion.
Can we
Yes.
just go back to square one here? And I'm hearing 380-something thousand, but in your presentation, it says 391,000.
That's right, yeah.
So why are we undercutting?
So as I mentioned, that base bid includes an allowance of $50,000, which is used for unforeseen site conditions and any sort of change order. Without having it be a change order, we could pull it out of that line item in the base bid.
Okay.
Those funds were not used, that would essentially become a credit to the township at the end of the project.
But the safe figure here would be the $391,915.
That's the base bid that would be awarded,
Okay.
correct? And again, that has the $50,000 allowance included in there.
Okay. All right, because I'm hearing 384. What is that including?
That is the sum of the base bid of $391,000 minus that allowance, plus the cost to install the decorative poles.
Okay. So in your learned opinion, would the 391,000 be a better offer?
$1,000 is have to be awarded as the base bid.
Okay. Well, I understand, and you third grader here, but why would we go down to 380-something thousand when we're already at 391,000?
That was just a way to visualize what the cost would be to purchase the decorative poles in the alternate bid.
Okay.
The base bid is what it is at $391,000, and like I said, that includes the $50,000 allowance. The cost to install the decorative poles in the alternate bid was $117,000. So if we award the alternate, it would cost $117,000 to install those decorative poles, but we would get a credit back for those items in the base bid. And that's the difference of $42,200.
Okay.
So to be clear, there's a chance we might have to pay the $42,000 number.
That's right. You're talking about 42,000 when we have,
I'm not questioning that, I'm trying to get down to the
well,
basics.
you need to look at it in perspective of the balance that we have in the budget of $5.6 million. I mean, for God's sake, it's not even 1% of that.
Mr. Fisher, do you have any questions?
Just a comment, this is really on the line of what I was thinking. I had a number in mind, maybe you could say it's an arbitrary or capricious number, but I always thought that like $5,000 per pole would be my limit to put the township out, and this would be 7 poles times 5,000 would be 35,000. Now, will we hit that or not? That's the golden question for me. So I'm betwixt and between.
So, again, look, go ahead.
I do follow the numbers, so.
All right, so let me just ask, do we have a second for Mr. Mack's motion to pay the sum of what is necessary to get the decorative poles up to the 42,000, whatever number, right?
I think the motion was to award both the base bid and the extra bid for the decorative poles. That was the motion. I don't know exactly what those numbers add up to, but there is a base bid and there is
Okay.
another extra bid, and the motion was to award both bids.
Mr. Kandari, can I ask you to give the exact dollar amount if we were to award that?
That would be, if we were to award the base bid and the alternate bid,
Break them down by what each one is.
the base bid is $391,915, and the alternate bid is $117,000. It's a sum of $508,915.
Okay, so do we have a second? I'll second it. Any discussion from the rest of the board? Any discussion from the public?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Charles Foyer from Newtown Walk, and my comments are that this marks almost 2 years since this project was proposed and approved, and we've reached this point, and it's great to reach it. I have to thank Police Chief Hearn for his diligence in protecting pedestrians and at the crosswalk location where this upgrade hasn't taken place yet. I'd also like to thank Mr. Seeger, coming from the Villas of Newtown, to express the concern over the pedestrian crosswalk situation, as we've heard from other people at other meetings as well, including people from Langhorne. I think from listening to Mr. Kandari and everyone's questions, the base bid includes the price for the base poles. The alternate bid is an additional bid for the decoratives. What it doesn't seem to take into account is the credit that goes back to the township or the construction plan for the base poles when the decorative poles are selected. think that's correct. Please correct me if I'm wrong. And also, a point of fact, it's great to hear Mr. Lewis's budget presentation, and I heard it last year. After the previous year, there were no budget funds for this project, but last year, I was here for that meeting, and the 1 mil increase in tax was specifically mentioned, the pedestrian crosswalk at Tara Boulevard. And subsequent to that, at another BOS meeting, I asked Mr. Lewis what would happen if the ARLE grant funds came in. Because at the time he had his budget approved, we didn't know if the ARLE grant would be approved. So in his wisdom, in budgeting, he put in for the Tara Crosswalk, and the ARLE grant was granted. So at the time, I asked Mr. Lewis, well, it seems like you've got double budget for the project, and if you look back at the tape, his explanation was that those funds from the 1 mil increase were then at the pleasure of the Board of Supervisors to allocate as they wish. I think that's pretty accurate. Okay. Review tape. At any rate, so the difference that you keep hearing when you subtract the base poles from the project and the 117 for the decorative poles is a delta of $42,200. My comment, and that of everyone in Newtown that has supported this project from the beginning, is that the funds are available, Newtown has them, and it is hoped that we approve that. Thanks very much.
Are there any other comments from the public?
Good evening. My name is Mark Bjorkman. I've been a resident of Newtown Walk since 2020. I have 38 years of engineering experience working alongside all sorts of branches of the U.S. government, Air Force, NASA, NOAA. I've seen firsthand that government initiatives that are essential often move at the pace of watching paint dry, which is where we are here. My involvement in the Crosswalk project began 672 days ago. Since then, I'm pleased to see that we finally reached this critical milestone of approving a selected bidder. I want to express gratitude to all the supervisors, township engineers, PennDOT, and the persistent citizens of Newtown Township for getting us this far. However, I have to express disappointment that the project involving the optional decorative posts came in over budget, and the supervisors must now decide on whether to approve the upgrade option. The additional $42,000, or whatever the exact number is, for the ornamental posts is something I urged the supervisors to approve for 3 reasons. Number one, back when Newtown Borough put in the decorative poles for Lincoln Avenue poles, I evaluated the bids that they got, and I estimated that the cost we would have would be between $41,000 and $52,000, and the bid that we got was a very fair price. We're on the low end of that, $42,000. So that's good. So we're getting a good deal. And from a taxpayer's perspective, the 1 mil debt service tax increase that was approved in 2024 was designated to fund 3 initiatives that we heard. Converting public streetlights to LEDs, upgrading building lighting, and implementing the pedestrian safety improvements that we're discussing today. And from an aesthetic perspective, the ornamental posts are really essential to preserving the historical and the refined character of our community, as well as consistency when it comes to Sycamore, because there's other posts down there. So those are my reasons. Thank you for your time. I look forward to timely approval and swift construction and implementation of these very important safety upgrades. Thank you.
Right. Well, that brings us to voting. So I would ask the question, now that we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. 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 Opposed? No. Motion passes 4-1. Thank you. There are no items for the solicitor this evening. It's now time for minutes and bills. Manager's report. What?
He's so easily overlooked.
Sorry. Oh, sorry. Yes, I'm sorry.
Thank you. The general fund balance this evening is $6,584,597. Plan expirations before the board with no action required. This evening we have Chief Hearn to give his monthly chief's report. Evening, Chief.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, board members. September 2024's police report. We documented 2,388 police calls for service. We logged just under 19,000 miles on our patrol fleet. We had 23 arrests for the month of September, including 2 burglaries of residentials, 1 aggravated assault, 3 simple assaults. All the assaults were domestic related. 4 thefts, 2 of which were retail thefts. 3 outstanding warrants out of New Jersey, Philadelphia. 2 narcotics arrests, 1 forgery, and 6 DUIs. There were 9 new cases referred to detectives for investigation, with 1 crime scene processed. 1 included a burglary at Eagleton Farms Development. 2 frauds, a package theft, counterfeit, harassment, 1 extortion, and 2 child line cases. There were 75 traffic crashes. There were 181 citations issued and 216 warnings issued. Truck enforcement detail, we worked 3 separate details with the task force, 2 at the bypass in Lindenhurst and 1 in Durham and Fox Hill Road in Wrightstown, resulting in 36 inspections, 14 citations, 19 warnings, and 7 vehicles were placed out of service and 2 vehicles were towed. Notable jobs for the month: on 9/22, our department members were deployed to assist New Britain Township with a dignitary visit to the National Shrine. President Poland was visiting, and we assisted that agency at their request. On 9/27, we had oath of office administered to 2 new officers and a promotion of Police Corporal Justin Price to replace Corporal Tim Keegan, who will be retiring. On 9/28, we had another dignitary visit to Newtown Township. Partners from the agencies in the region assisted us. There were no incidents and no injuries at that event. There are plenty of upcoming military protection details between now and Election Day, so our department will also cover them. Police services announcements. Month of September, on September 21st, we had our classic car show at Veterans Park. School back in session. Please yield to buses and watch the children crossing the street. Frauds on the elderly are continuing. Please pay attention to your parents, grandparents, and elderly neighbors. Package theft with the holidays upcoming. Pay attention to your packages being delivered to your property so they're not taken off your front porch, have them delivered to a secure site, or have your neighbors pick them up for you. And finally, National Drug Take Back Day is 10/26 from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at our township building. Any unwanted narcotics and prescription medication can be dropped off here to our police officers, and we will dispose of them properly. Be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Anybody have any questions for the chief? I have one question. How are things at the post office going? Is that still an ongoing issue?
The post office itself has slowed down. They are now taking it out of your mailbox in front of your property when you put your flag up to deposit bills and that type of stuff. So I would suggest you deliver your mail inside the post office and hand deliver it to your postmaster.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Fisher, do you have anything? Don't want to let you out.
I do not. Just thank the chief.
Yes. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you, Chief. That's all we have under our report.
Thank you. Okay. Brings us to our minutes and bills list.
Okay, we have the minutes of September 11th. I'm not quite sure why this is on there. Can you tell me, Mr.? Sorry?
There wasn't enough people last meeting to approve the minutes.
Yeah, I kind of walked out, didn't I?
No, I mean, there wasn't enough people present. People had missed meetings.
All right. So I make a motion to approve the minutes of the September 11th, 2024 meeting.
Second.
Well,
You made the motion, she seconded.
oh, I have to do that?
There's a motion and a second,
Sorry.
Madam Chair, yeah.
Any questions from the board?
I will be abstaining because I did not attend that meeting.
I will
Thank
also be abstaining for the same reason.
Thank you. Seeing that, all those in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain?
Abstain.
Yes. So motion passes 3-2.
302.
Oh, 3-0, sorry, 3-0. I'm confused this evening. Sorry, everybody.
Similarly, I would like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the September 25th, 2024 meeting.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion from the board? The public? All those in favor? Say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed?
Abstain,
Okay, that's, motion passes 4-1.
4-0.
4-0, so an abstain doesn't count.
It's yays, nays, abstain.
Okay, thank you. Gotcha.
All right, now comes the complicated part of approving the bills list of October 9, 2024, totaling $841,331.36.
Second.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Any questions from the public? All in favor of passing? Pardon? What'd you say, Dennis?
I said paying our bills.
Yes. All in favor of doing that, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. Motion passes 4-1.
Finally,
Yeah.
I move that we approve funds transfer of $630,028.18 as per the October 9, 2024 bills list.
Any questions from the board? From the public? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any abstain? Motion passes 5-0. All right, that brings us to our second round of public comment.
Good evening again, Charles Foyer, Newtown Walk. Thank you for the favorable approval of the motion, and now that the project can move forward, a question I have for the board and the engineer is that in light of the fact that the board has approved the bid and the budgeting for the construction of both projects, can the Board of Supervisors instruct the township engineer, RVE, to proceed with the construction contract for Tara Boulevard while it waits for PennDOT to grant the silo permit?
I can say we will certainly take that into consideration.
And I guess my second question is, what is the timeline from this point forward for the construction of Tara, since it has a permit?
I think we will let everybody know. When we know that timeline, we will let you know as well.
Thank you very much. Anyone else?
I would think that that work has to be done before winter sets in, I believe. What is usual in these kind of cases? I mean, the date, is there any kind of cutoff date?
There is a paving period that PennDOT enforces. There can be requests to work around that. So I think that answers your question. But there is some work that should not be done during extremely cold weathers, and that's, something we encounter quite often, and that's something we deal with if that situation were to arise.
Just assume the sooner we can start, the better, basically, because winter is coming.
I'm sorry, and that reminded me of another question I had with regard to it. I believe in reading over all the documents thus far for this, there was a deadline, and I'm not sure if it was for the bids of the end of the year, or I don't know if that was in the bids or the ARLE grant, but I remember that there was some deadline at the end of the year, and I thought it was in the bid request. But thanks.
Any other public comment? Seeing none?
Yes, I just want to bring up the old business of the Blue Dogs ceremony to recognize their achievement in the Little League. And I believe we have mentioned the date of October 23rd, which is our next Board of Supervisors meeting. And are we on track for that, Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Nice, short and sweet. And I know the Parks and Rec director has been in contact with the Little League folks, and hopefully that'll go very well. How are the Phillies doing, by the way? Okay.
Any other old business? Is there any new business? We had no need of an executive session this evening. So with that, I will adjourn the meeting.